Okay. Today is Tuesday, April 29th, 2025, and I call this meeting of the City of Merrill Personnel and Finance Committee to order. Second item on the agenda is approval of the check summary report.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to approve the check summary report. Any discussion?
I have no questions.
Nope.
0 for 3. All those in favor signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Consider approving minutes from the previous meeting for March 25th.
Motion to approve.
I have a question on it, so I don't know if I should second it and then question it. All right, then I will second it for the sake of discussion. Where it says the packet included 10 items carried over from 2024. That's on page 34 of the current packet. Were all 10 of those carried over, or one was an add-on, wasn't it?
There were 5 carryovers, and the other 5 were new.
Okay, I don't know if that should be changed to reflect that or not, but
You're right that it probably should.
I would think so. And I will amend the motion.
I will amend the motion to reflect the 5 carryovers and the 5 new additions to the budget.
I will second that.
Motion made and seconded to approve the March 25th meeting minutes with a amendment to the carryovers. All those in favor signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same side. The minutes are approved. General items for consideration. Discuss the proposed 2026 budget timeline.
Great. There's just a couple of questions I had. I just wanted to get us all on the same page when we're doing our budget discussions. So when I was reviewing the city ordinances, there were just a couple of things that in practice I don't think the city does. So in practice it looks like COW has been the entity that sort of does the budget deliberations, and the ordinance had P&F as doing that and recommending the budget to council. And I just thought, we can sort of continue on as we do things in practice, or we can take a look and clean up the ordinance. Whatever is the will of the committee, I'm open to. I did take a stab at updating the ordinance. Again, we can talk about these things or ignore them for now and just keep moving. The first thing is that the first part of the ordinance has that departments create their estimates. And in practice, the departments don't really have access to the financial system. It's much easier for me to create the estimates, so I just thought we could get rid of that section. The next part says personnel and finance shall consider the department estimates. Again, COUS has in practice been the entity doing the budget deliberations, and I kind of like that. I think it's nice that all of council is represented in the budget discussions, and then all of the committees have some representation on the council on the budget discussions as well. So that was another change. There are some dates in ordinance that are not required by state statutes. We can have our own dates if we're interested. If we want the budget by October 20th, that's fine with me. I kind of think, what if the 20th is a Sunday and we, why put a date in there if it's not required? But if we want a date, we are welcome to do that.
I don't think we've ever followed that date anyway.
You are correct.
I think last year it was like the 24th or something where we had our final COW meeting. It was some date like that.
That
So,
sounds right.
And that depends on when we get the numbers from the state.
Correct. Yeah, there are a lot of
Yeah,
factors.
I remember some P&F meetings in the basement coming up in October and getting your budget thrown on your desk that day.
Oh, yeah.
None of that was followed over the years.
Yeah.
I honestly don't recall P&F ever being the sole
No.
Not in
entity
the-
that reviewed the budget either, so.
Yeah, not in the 15 years that I've been working with the school district,
So-
following these meetings, has P&F really done that. So this ordinance means that it's before your time even here, Tom, which says something.
I think when like Kurt Helmstetter was the chairman of PNF and Mike Willman, I think that's when it kind of, and then after that it changed.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about, just for discussion purposes, is that Merrill adopts their budget as an ordinance, but we don't publish it, and we don't incorporate it into our code of ordinances, and that's the only, as far as I know, that's the only ordinance we don't publish. Most places around us adopt their budgets as resolutions. That way, when you're amending your budget, you just do an amending resolution, and so it's really easy to update your budget. When it's an ordinance that's not codified anywhere, I'm not certain how to amend the budget like that. So one thing we could talk about is adopting it as a resolution instead of an ordinance. Ordinances have the force of law, and resolutions, Tom, please jump in.
They are generally temporary in nature.
Yeah, like,
One event, and which would be a year's cycle of funds. Yeah.
Well, and obviously we change budgets as needed. As needed, like we've made a few amendments to the budget this year already, is what I'm saying.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying that others just adjusted the budgets over the years.
Well, no, and I get that, I
Without
understand that,
either.
but we're not those people.
No.
So as far as I'm concerned, we could do it as resolutions, and we will be open and transparent with the public when things have to change. So I don't see a reason why we couldn't do resolutions
No.
for that.
other
Yeah.
than we're breaking with tradition. That's,
Breaking
Time
tradition
to
means
blaze some new
nothing.
trails, Emily.
I have no issue with the changes that were presented to us on page 40 and 41. And I would make a motion to forward those on to the council if somebody wants to second that.
I will second that motion.
40 and 41.
That's the only red page in their pages.
Can I just ask another question?
Please.
Where you're talking about, you mentioned that you're the only one that really has the software to lay out the preliminary numbers. The department heads would still get the ability to review them with you.
absolutely,
and-
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then on page 41, where it says the council would hold a public hearing the fourth Tuesday of November, no later than the fourth Tuesday. Does that become kind of too late in our time frame, or?
We've always done it the second Tuesday of November.
I think
and-
I put in the 4th, that is state statutes, that's the last date you can have it, and then if we are, the goal would always be to have it at the November meeting, but if something happened and we'd have another meeting, that would give us some time to.
Okay.
It
and
gives
that's
us
why
2
it's
weeks to
not
pad it
later.
in case
Yes,
there's a
just in
need.
case.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Then was it seconded?
Yeah,
I
Okay,
seconded
Then that
it.
answers my questions.
Okay.
I just want to ask Emily a quick question. Obviously, LaDonna brought up working with department heads. And I'm sure I asked the question during this budget cycle, but I'm going to ask it again because I do not remember the answer at this point in time. How did it work this year with talking with department heads, about, hey, this is what you need, this is what you have for budget, what do you need, how did that all work out for you? Did it work out well, or?
Yeah, I think so, and especially last year because I was learning, and so I needed them to sort of walk me through each account and how they use it, so that was super helpful for me, and I plan to do that again this year, meet with them.
Okay.
I do have one other question on 39, where you have the June Committee of the Whole to talk about the 10-year finance plan to the cow.
Yeah.
I guess I just want clarification, because if I'm recalling this last year correctly, and I think the only reason I'm questioning is I don't remember it myself, and I think Rebecca had kind of asked about it a little bit and felt kind of fuzzy about it. Did we as a whole come together and say we would be okay with our objective being a 2% increase or a 2.5% increase or whatever increase, and then work backwards from there? Did that happen at any point in this process, or did we just kind of patch things together again and then narrow it way down at the end?
I'm prepared to say we patched things together last year, which was a learning year for me. We were sort of, and we are going through the revals, so we didn't really know what was, what the impact was going to be on taxes until the end, because we didn't have all of the final numbers. So I expect this year to be a lot smoother.
We did have a number, though, I think it was 2.5% that we were shooting for.
Yes.
And I think that was discussed, I can't say which meeting it was, but I think there was a consensus to keep it below 2.5%, or at 2.5%.
Yeah, I remember 2.5% was the number we shot for as a council last year.
And I vaguely remember that. I guess I'm just asking that, you know, that maybe that step can be a little more clearly defined this next time going around so that we're all,
Honestly, we had a hard time with the 2.5% with net new growth. We
Yeah.
barely
Mhm.
made it there. I mean, we're
Mhm.
only allowed to raise it based on our net new growth. We can't raise it, you know,
Mhm.
unless there's something related to debt. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
I would like to proceed in that motion, then we'll kick the cat a little bit more, because I have just one question on the budget. A motion made and seconded to forward onto the city council amendments to the city ordinance regarding the budget timeline. All those, any other further discussion? All those in
None.
favor signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. It's approved. My question is, have we shopped for health care lately?
We have a meeting, I believe it's next week, with the health insurance
M3.
people. Yes, thank you.
Okay. As I don't know if we looked at any other providers or anything like that.
I have not. I wanted to see what they were going to come back with.
Okay.
After the last 2 years of how we were treated, I think I'm afraid to go someplace else.
Me too.
With a zero and then a decrease.
Yeah. Does anyone have any further discussion or questions for anyone regarding the proposed 2026 budget? And timeline, I should say.
No, just thanks for spelling it out clearly.
Yeah, we could have made you the next city attorney with all your red lining in there.
She's so nice a person.
Second item under general items for consideration is discuss the 2024 compensation information payroll report.
So this report has historically been provided and posted on the city's website. And I'm bringing it to PNF just to get some clarification on how the report is used and what questions it's answering, because I have a couple of concerns about it. I guess my concerns stem from, like, it's not really telling the full story. You know, it's not telling if a position is all funded by tax dollars or if it's a grant position, or, you know, it doesn't give you any context about who's funding the position. It doesn't really provide any information about, you know, if we're over budget or under budget, if we did a good job controlling costs. Like, it didn't answer any of those questions for me when I was creating the report. And so I just wanted to make sure that, you know, what information we get from this report is helpful and meaningful, and doesn't cause more questions. Because, like, when I was thinking about, like, the overtime specifically, you know, what person by person looking at overtime, it doesn't tell me if the department was over the budget on their overtime, or if they were short-staffed, so they needed to rely on overtime, but their salaries were under because they were short-staffed, or if they were fully staffed and they were still using overtime. Like, what does that say about the department and the resources of the department? You know, like, it didn't answer any of those kinds of questions for me, so I just wanted to sort of think, what am I missing? How are we using this report to make sure that we're giving, like, accurate information and maybe provide a little more context than what's been provided in the past, just to make sure that it's, you know, not causing more confusion when we put something like this on the website.
I think I would expound on that too, Emily, because if this is just straight payroll and doesn't include any benefit type information, you know, people may look at this, go on the website and look at it and go, oh, they're really underpaid, and not recognize that there's other benefits that compensate for that difference between other communities as well, and things like that.
That's a good
I've
point.
heard it the other way. People look at it and say that we're overpaid.
Well, it's hard to know because it doesn't
Yeah.
really tell us if they're included
No,
or not included.
And
or-
even within departments, I've had questions, you know, how come they make this and I make that? And well, they work the overtime. You don't. You don't come in, and there's plenty of opportunity. But I think it creates a document that if anybody wants to know the information, they can request it. But I think with that, it throws something out there that is being used against the employees. And a lot of times it's comparative to what other people are making. as
Mhm.
taxpayers. And I know it's been done in the past, and that's why Emily wanted to bring it here, just to make sure that we were doing it for the right reasons.
Do you remember why you started it? I know you and my sister were on P and F when it started.
Yeah, there was, I think there was, people were asking all the time about how much this, the next thing. So I think we just decided at that time to put it on, so.
A few years ago, there was an item that came in front of P and F. It was called the Waupun Report. And the city of Waupun releases this budget summary, much like you talked about. And it was very educational on where they're at. And it did not have specific salaries in there like this, ours, small report did. And we tasked the city finance director with creating the same project, and it never happened. Never even came close to it. So maybe that's something, because I know you don't have much on your plate at all, that you could look at and see what they're doing and see maybe we can replicate that.
I think I've even seen their budget book. I think,
We looked at it
yeah.
together, and we said we're gonna get there. So
Yeah.
that's-
I think too, like Gus said, to be able to look at it maybe by department or without giving specific people's names in it is valuable.
If you look in the employment section of the Facebook, our website, there is, I guess, by department, it shows what, Public Works 1 and other things, but then there's also the breakdown of the range of that position on our website. It just doesn't have the person's name on there.
And I guess that's the thing that concerns me is the fact that, I don't care if you look up at the top that as Alderperson Meyer, made, $3,740. I don't care if people know that. But, and because that's on here as well, I think that's something that the public should know. I think they should know what our administrators are making for all that they do. But a random street worker, I don't understand why someone needs to know what they're making. So I would say if we're going to put anything out there at all, you exclude any of the workers that people shouldn't be going up and talking to a random street worker asking, hey, you only get paid this much?
I've searched other cities' websites to try to find, when we were talking about attorney position or other things, to try to find a similar document that you don't find it anywhere. I didn't.
I've never seen it like this, and I think it's probably because it is a little confusing with how we do it, just without more context. It's not.
Right. When you look at
Yeah.
how the TIDs pay for part of certain positions and the sewer and water pay for part, I think it's,
Misleading.
Correct. I'd like to see that document too. I'm just pointing out the little thing of, I think it's still good for the public to know what, what our elected officials are making, because let's face it, we're paid pennies on the dollar for what some of us have to put up with, as far as residents complaints. But I don't see why we need to have our mechanics or our public works 1 people stuff out there. That doesn't make sense to me.
I would think the overall perception is they work for the government, therefore it's tax money. And the taxpayer has a right to know what they're being paid. So I think that's probably where the overall perception comes from, although it's not really fully accurate. Like Emily said, there are details. So I think if the details are available when somebody really needs to know, that's one thing, but I don't know that it needs to be published at this level of detail. Like you said, the ranges for positions are out there.
and I guess if you'd let us bring what is on the website, I think there's 2 other documents there. Let us bring those in and go over those at the next P&F meeting to see if we can come up with a hybrid that makes sense,
Yeah, maybe bring back that Waupun one
Yeah.
too. 'cause
or something that has the
Something, yeah.
position and not the name, or
Yeah.
However,
Well,
if-
right, and, you know, just from coming from places where I've done payroll, I mean, you know, the last thing you really want is everybody knowing what everybody's making. That's not ideal, regardless of whether it's tax money or the boss's money. It still should be up to them to figure that out on their own to do that.
and the information is available. I mean, if somebody wants to know, it's,
It's all public record.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I guess we'll just talk about that next month.
do you want us to bring the other documents in to
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's a good
kind
idea.
of make sense of it all?
Please do.
How did you make $25 more than me last year?
Well, here we go.
Did I show up to one more meeting than you? I don't know.
I just saw we got a salary. Okay, monthly reports.
See, that's what happens right there.
That's how rumors get started.
Monthly reports, Mayor Haas.
Be happy to answer any questions. As you can see, it was a pretty busy month with stuff, and I don't always remember to write everything down, so.
Who bought the coffee at the coffee shop?
Each person bought their own.
Any
Did that
question?
come out of our budget too?
Mm,
We're buying cars, can't afford that.
Did that first pitch go across the plate?
It did 3 times.
3 times. They made you throw it 3 times.
Yep, it's on video.
Any questions for the city administrator?
Currently.
Any questions for the finance director? I guess I have a question for one or each of you. In the capital improvement projects, one was a basketball court. It says on hold for Streeter Square. Do you know why we're on hold with that?
Trying to come up with funding as far as replacement. So we're not gonna tear it out until we have a confirmed no, if that works.
Does? Any questions for City Attorney Hayden?
Counting down the days?
No,
Months, yeah.
yeah, we got months yet.
City Clerk Anderson Malm is not present, nor is Municipal Court. I will entertain a motion to place monthly reports on file.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to put the monthly reports on file. All those in favor signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Public comment. Second call for public comment. And third and final call for public comment. Date and time of next meeting, it looks like we're going to follow health and safety on the 27th at 6 p.m.
Health and Safety is having their meeting on the 27th, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Hour or 45 minutes before us, so those jerks better hurry up. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.